Welcome to Shad's Guitar Show. Whether it's the gear or the players who made the gear famous, this podcast is about all things guitar. Well, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Shad's Guitar Show, and I'm so glad you're joining me yet again. This year has been starting off awesome. Gotten a lot of episodes out there, and just finding myself being able to be very consistent with releasing episodes. And that was one of my goals for the year, and I'm really excited to do it, and it's having a great effect. You guys seem to be listening more and more interested in what I'm putting out there, and I just couldn't be happier about that. So thank you to everyone listening right now for taking the time to check out this episode. So the theme of this episode is, recently you guys saw, this is a little while after the news. Actually, this happened yesterday as of this recording, but you won't hear this probably for a couple weeks. But Bob Weir, one of the founding members of the Grateful Dead, passed away, and just another legend that is no longer with us. And we see that happening, it seems like, at an accelerated rate. So I got into a conversation with some friends about, there is this massive population of larger than life rock stars, the Paul McCartneys, the Eric Claptons, the Jimmy Pages, all these guys that are out there who are responsible for some of the most enduring, amazing rock music ever created. The David Gilmours, the Mike Campbells, all these guys who are getting older, and inevitably these guys are going to pass away. I mean, we all know nobody lives forever. And because a lot of these guys are so close in age, you got to wonder what that's going to look like when these guys, pass on. I mean, it's a whole era of music will be gone, and no longer with us. I mean, obviously we still have the recordings. We always have that, but those personas, those people, the guys who made us want to buy certain guitars or amps, the concerts that we talk about, like that were so epic that we went to when we got to see these guys live, and just the interviews we've listened to, and just seeing these guys for, nearly 60 years performing and just being, public figures and just out there. We see them in the magazines when we used to read magazines, right? Guitar World, Guitar Player. We see them. We just see them all the time. I mean, they're just larger than life. And those guys are getting old. I mean, a lot of those guys are either creeping up on 80 or in their 80s. And, it was just, we were having this conversation about how is that going to feel? How's it going to look when those guys are all gone? What is like the next group of people? And is there even another group of people that are younger that we could look to and cite as like, these are the next wave of that whole thing? I don't know if that makes sense, but it makes sense to me. I mean, are there, I guess, looking at the, maybe in the 80s, there were some pretty big players that are legendary. I mean, you got your Slashes and, you got your Edges and different people like that from the 80s, certainly. But once you get into the 90s, I mean, yeah, they're the grunge era. You've got, your, grunge bands, and a lot of those guys were really big, but more of that really, I think, was about a movement of music, not so much about an individual, right? I mean, are there any really massive, was there an Eric Clapton? I mean, obviously he was here in the 90s, but was there a 90s born, artist who is an Eric Clapton? Is there, I mean, I guess you could say maybe Joe Bonamassa. There are guys out there, certainly, but the sheer number of them is minuscule in comparison to the guys who came up creating all this legendary music in the 60s and 70s. It's just not the same. And I wonder, will there be another wave of guys that pass on, 20, 30 years from now that have the same impact as it's going to be for us guys when we lose Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton and David Gilmour. I mean, that's going to be amazing. I mean, crazy. Paul McCartney. Can you imagine a world without Paul McCartney? Can you imagine a world without Elton John? I mean, these guys are legendary. Brian May. I mean, all these guys who, inevitably have to pass on. And we were just kind of discussing, like, how is that going to feel? And is the world just going to kind of feel empty? I don't know. It's a strange thing, but it started a bigger conversation about rock stars, guitar heroes, and what are those today? I mean, really, there aren't that many what you would call rock stars in the same way that the people that we were just talking about, the legends from the past, the guitar heroes. I mean, there still are people that everyone looks up to. I mean, you've got your John Mayers, you got younger guys, like I mentioned, Joe Bonamassa. I mean, there are definitely younger players who are having a big effect and that, younger guys really look up to, and we older guys look up to because they're amazing players. But it seems now that we've become such an internet-driven world and a social media world that most of the players that people reference and look up to are really, most of what they're doing is being created online. They're making clips on Instagram, or they're, recording things on YouTube. And, the world of, writing albums and touring the world it's almost like archaic to think about now. Music is just not the same as it was. And I think people perceive it differently, and young guitar players, guys that actually still want to learn how to play, the players that they're looking up to are more, social media people, figures that they identify with and like. It's like, instead of just being like this larger than life persona, now what makes somebody important to other people is way more than just, their vibe or how they play the instrument. It's the content that they create. It's the lighting. It's the mood. It's the environment that they record their stuff in, that they create their stuff in. And really, it's just become a completely different world. And, ultimately, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. I mean, that's evolution of things, right? I mean, it's the way that music has always gone. I mean, it's been synthesized over time to be a much different thing than older guys like myself, in my 50s. I remember music being way different when I got into it. And it's a whole new world now. And there's a lot of great things about it and some things that are not so great. But ultimately, I guess that's the question. And maybe you guys can comment and we can have some discussion around this. Like, who are the rock stars? Who are the guitar heroes of this day and age? I mean, we still have Steve Vai. We still have, Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani, Paul Gilbert, these amazing, shred guitar players that many of us when we were young aspired to play like, the Yngwie Malmsteens. But are there guys like that now that have that really technical ability, that technical prowess, but also that like larger than life, like status or, just kind of persona? And ultimately now with AI generated music coming on so strong, I mean, what does the future look like? I don't mean to be a doom and gloom pessimist, but, are people even going to want to still learn to play instruments? I mean, yeah, I believe they will. There'll always be people who really want to make real, genuine music themselves. But, will those people ever even have an opportunity to try to make a living as musicians? I guess in a live environment, yeah, because AI can't go and perform music live. But will these people even have a chance to create their own music and get it out there in front of people, where platforms like Spotify or Apple Music will just be absolutely inundated with AI generated music and real, genuine musician created music will just kind of be lost in the shuffle. All right, so that should probably do it for this episode before it gets any more down and depressing. But that really wasn't the theme of it. I hope that's not the takeaway. The takeaway was just kind of me reflecting on my heroes and these, larger than life guitar heroes of the past, and, the fact that they're all getting older, and how's that going to look when those guys start passing away? I mean, the really, really big names start to go, and I wonder how we'll all feel about that. But ultimately, we can enjoy their music as long as we're around, because we have plenty of sources to hear that music, and we can watch all kinds of incredible DVDs of them performing live. So they will live on. They will live on in perpetuity through recordings and video recordings and those types of things, which is great, because generations from now can look back and watch, a DVD copy of How the West Was Won by Led Zeppelin and see, Jimmy Page in all his glory. And maybe that in itself will be enough to inspire the next generation of people who maybe only hear of him as somebody from the past, or an Eric Clapton or a David Gilmour, will then be inspired based on what they see and hear to want to make music. Because in my humble opinion, music is one of the most pure things we have left, and we got to protect it. All right, and if you actually enjoyed this episode, I hope that you'll share it with a friend. Let them know about the show. And do me a favor, comment and let me know what player is going to hit the hardest when you hear that they're gone. I'm curious to hear who's the most important to you guys out there and hear some of your ideas about that. If you're not following me on Instagram, go and do that now. Shad's Guitar Show on Instagram, and subscribe at Shad's Guitar Show on YouTube. And let's keep this super cool, thriving community of guitar and gear related things going strong. And remember, the best guitar player is the one having the most fun.